I've been doing quite a few beach walk nature-y videos recently, and I want to continue doing those, and throughout all of those, I always happen to mention a lot of Latin names when referring to the species type or classification or evolutionary relationships of the animals I'm talking about in the videos. So I just thought, let me do a real quick video on taxonomy and phylogeny so that you guys know what the heck I'm talking about. Now this is going to be funny because this is what we do here. This is not a boring school lecture about taxonomy. Don't click off the video if you think this is going to be boring. So, let's get started. Scientists really like to group things, and they typically like to group things in an internationally agreed upon way so that a scientist in the United States and a scientist in Russia can talk about the same thing and actually know they're both talking about the same thing. Hence, enter in taxonomy for trying to figure out how to label and group different types of animals, plants, funguses, all the different living things on this planet. Now, taxonomy has a very long and complicated history, especially thanks to the ancient Greeks, who just kind of grouped things together by like the way they moved or if they had hair, so hence they would make anything that flew. Anything that could fly was a bird. That means like an eagle was a bird, but also a bat was a bird. We know bats are not birds today. This also lends to the hilarious idea that coconuts are mammals because they have hair and milk. See how there's some failings in taxonomy? So nowadays we use a different system, and most importantly in the naming of species, we use Carolus Linnaeus's idea of binomial nomenclature, or each individual species has a two-part Latin name, and every single species will have its own unique name. With this binomial nomenclature, scientists have started grouping things together by how they're evolutionary related to one another. And this is where that handy mnemonic device you learned in grade school comes in. King Phillip came over for great spaghetti. Brianna, thank you so much for inviting me over. This is a great plate of spaghetti. This denotes the different taxonomic classifications of kingdom, phylum, order, class, family, genus, and species. And as you go from kingdom all the way down into species, you get narrower and narrower and narrower in your range until finally you have a singular species. And the two-part Latin name for all species comes from the genus and species name for it. So killer whales are also, their Latin name is Orcinus orca, so genus and species. The ghost crabs I talked about a couple of weeks ago were Ocipode, what was it? No, I don't even remember. Quadrata. Ocipode quadrata, that sounds right. Genus and species name. Nailing this. So as you go down the taxonomic line, the things that are in the same genus are going to be far more related to each other than the same things that are in the same family, and things that are in the same family will be more related to each other than things that are in the same class, and so forth and so on. You know, get more narrowed down, things become more related until it's only just them in their little species category. The other thing about taxonomy and phylogeny is scientists are uncovering new evolutionary relationships between organisms all the time, which means they're always changing it, because sometimes they realize, hey, this thing that we thought was one species actually is multiple, and so now they're in the same genus, but there's multiple species in that genus. Kind of crazy. One really good example of this is carcinization, which was actually brought up on a comment on my ghost crab video. And this is kind of this funny idea that everything is evolving to be a crab, or more scientifically, that there are several evolutionary pathways by which crab-like creatures have evolved. So you have your true crabs, which includes like the ghost crabs I was talking about, but you also have things that are very crab-like but are not considered true crabs, such as hermit crabs, not considered true crabs, and the Alaskan king crab, also not considered a true crab. All of these organisms are in kingdom Animalia, phylum Arthropoda, class Malacostraca, and order Decapoda. That's really hard to remember all of those. But when you get down into their different families, the true crabs make up a certain subset of families, and hermit crabs and Alaskan king crabs are in different families that are not evolutionary related enough to be considered the same family. So when those two paths separated from one another, king crabs and hermit crabs and stuff like that evolved independently, kind of a crab-shaped body. So it's a weird case of where you're like, oh, this is definitely a crab, but jinx, it's not. Same thing with the Portuguese man of war that I brought up in previous beachcombing videos, are not actually considered true jellyfish, but they're also in phylum Cnidaria, like true jellyfish are. Pretty fun. That's just a little bit about taxonomy, phylogeny, classification, and how scientists decide, hey, this animal or this plant, is that plant an animal? The same rules apply to like plants and fungi and bacteria and stuff. I mostly talk about animals, so I just have been using a lot of animal examples. Please like this video. Comment down below what your favorite animal is, because I want to know the answer. Mine's the killer whale, in case you didn't know that. And subscribe to my channel, tell all your friends about it, and as always, keep it sciencey! I've been doing all of these organisms are in phylum, all these organisms are in kingdom Animalia, phylum, hard to remember all these names.